Welcome to our deep dive into a period of history that continues to fascinate and inspire, the French Revolution. Now, I'm sure we've all encountered the basics, but today we're going beyond the familiar images of guillotines and case shortages to unearth why this revolution still matters to us centuries later. We're going to uncover how an 18th century upheaval in France still echoes through our modern world, shaping our ideas about government, equality, and even our own roles as citizens.
It's remarkable how much of our present is shaped by this single historical period. To truly grasp its significance, we need to understand the France that existed before the Revolution.
Right, because it wasn't just about a few taxes or a shortage of baguettes. Our sources paint a vivid picture of a society on the verge of implosion. We're talking about the infamous three-estate system. Could you explain that for our listener?
Imagine a society so rigidly structured that your place in it was determined at birth. That was France, under the three-estate system. The first estate, the clergy, held immense wealth and influence. The second estate, the nobility, enjoyed privileges and exemptions that set them apart from the rest of society. And then there's the third estate.
The everyday people, right? The ones who always seem to get the short end of the baguette.
Precisely. The third estate encompassed everyone from peasants and laborers to merchants and intellectuals. They formed the vast majority of the population, yet they bore the brunt of taxation and had very little say in how their country was run. You can see how this created a breeding ground for resentment and, eventually, revolution.
It's almost like a pressure cooker just waiting to explode. Our source mentions how deeply ingrained this system was, how generations had lived and died under its weight.
It wasn't just unfair, it was practically fossilized. Imagine a society where your last name alone dictated your job, your rights, even your access to basic necessities. That was the reality of pre-revolutionary France for the vast majority of its people.
And explode it did. It's almost impossible to imagine the frustration and anger that must have been simmering beneath the surface of French society for so long.
Absolutely, and like any pressure cooker, once the valve is released, the results can be explosive. Our sources point to several key events that propelled the revolution forward.
It's almost like a historical domino effect, one event triggering the next.
That's a great way to put it. And perhaps the first domino to fall was the storming of the Bastille on July 14th, 1789.
Ah, yes, the Bastille Day we still hear about. But beyond it being a prison break, what made this event so significant?
The Bastille wasn't just any prison. It represented the king's absolute authority, his power to imprison anyone at will. By storming the Bastille, the people weren't just freeing prisoners, they were symbolically dismantling the foundation of the old regime. It was a direct challenge to the king's authority and a powerful declaration of the people's will.
So it's no wonder that image has become so enduring. It's a powerful visual representation of the revolution itself.
Exactly. And speaking of powerful statements, our next pivotal event is the creation of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen.
This document feels so important, but honestly, most of my knowledge about it comes from high school history quizzes. What made it so revolutionary?
This declaration was groundbreaking. It proclaimed that all men are born and remain free and equal in rights. It challenged centuries of tradition and hierarchy by asserting the fundamental rights of every individual, regardless of their social status.
It's incredible to think about the impact this document had, not just on France, but on the world.
It became a cornerstone of modern democratic thought, inspiring similar declarations and movements for human rights across the globe. Its echoes can be felt even today in ongoing struggles for equality and justice.
It's a powerful reminder that the ideals we often take for granted were once considered radical and even dangerous. But of course, the revolution wasn't all smooth sailing towards liberty and equality. Our source doesn't shy away from the darker chapter that followed, the Reign of Terror.
This is where the revolution's noble aspirations collided with the complexities of human nature. The Reign of Terror was a period of extreme violence and paranoia where anyone perceived as an enemy of the revolution could be silenced, often brutally.
It's a stark reminder that revolutions, even those fought in the name of freedom and equality, can be messy and even brutal.
Indeed. The terror serves as a cautionary tale about the intoxicating nature of power, even when wielded in the name of noble ideals. It reminds us that vigilance and critical thinking are essential even and perhaps especially during times of great upheaval.
And just when you think the revolution couldn't get any more dramatic, enter Napoleon Bonaparte. It's almost like a screenwriter took over history for a moment there.
Napoleon's rise is fascinating because he embodies both the promise and the peril of revolution. He rose to prominence amidst the chaos, a brilliant military strategist who ultimately seized power and crowned himself emperor.
Talk about a power move. But he also implemented some significant reforms, right? I remember learning about the Napoleonic Code.
And Napoleon was a study in contradictions. He curtailed some of the freedoms ushered in by the revolution, yet he also enacted lasting reforms like the Napoleonic Code, which standardized laws and promoted equality before the law. Parts of this code still influence legal systems around the world today.
It's fascinating how Napoleon's reign seems to encapsulate this push and pull between revolutionary ideals and the allure of power. He's this larger-than-life figure who emerged from the revolution but then reshaped it in his own image.
He's a testament to the unpredictable nature of revolutions. They can unleash forces that are difficult to control even by those who claim to champion their ideals.
It makes you wonder if true revolution can ever be truly controlled or if it's always destined to be a messy, unpredictable process. But even with all its complexities, our source makes it clear that the French Revolution's impact wasn't limited to France. It sent out these ripples that are still being felt centuries later.
Absolutely. One of the most profound impacts was the shift away from monarchical rule by divine right. The idea that a king's power was absolute and ordained by God was fundamentally challenged.
Which seems like such a given now, but it's easy to forget how radical that idea was at the time.
It was a seismic shift. The French Revolution declared that governments should be accountable to the people they govern, not to some divine mandate. This idea resonated far beyond France's borders, inspiring movements for democratic reform and self-determination around the world.
It's like that moment when Dorothy lands in Oz and the world suddenly shifts on its axis. Nothing looks the same anymore.
Exactly. And the end of feudalism was another major turning point for centuries. This rigid social order had dictated every aspect of life for the vast majority of people. The revolution shattered those chains.
It's hard to overstate how significant that was. It wasn't just about land ownership. It was about dismantling a system that had kept generations trapped in cycles of poverty and servitude.
It was about recognizing the inherent dignity and potential of every human being regardless of their birth. This idea that everyone deserves a chance to improve their lot in life, that opportunity shouldn't be predetermined by your lineage, is something we still grapple with today.
It's a conversation that continues to play out in debates about social mobility, economic inequality, even access to education. Speaking of which, our source also highlights the revolution's impact on education.
The idea of public education, that knowledge and learning should be accessible to all, not just the elite, was revolutionary. The French Revolution planted the seeds for a more educated and informed citizenry, even if it took time for those seeds to fully blossom.
It's a reminder that revolutions aren't just about immediate change. They're about planting seeds for the future. And sometimes those seeds take generations to grow into something truly transformative.
Precisely. And while Napoleon might have had a complicated relationship with the revolution's ideals, his Napoleonic Code did help to solidify some of its gains, particularly in the realm of law.
So even as he was consolidating power, he was also spreading some of the revolution's core principles, like equality before the law.
Yes. The Napoleonic Code, with its emphasis on a standardized legal system and individual rights, had a far-reaching influence shaping legal codes in Europe, and beyond even today, its legacy can be seen in legal systems around the world.
It's incredible to think about how this relatively short period in history, this tumultuous, messy, often contradictory revolution, continues to shape our world in ways we might not even realize. It's a reminder that history isn't just something we study, it's something we live with, something that shapes who we are and how we understand the world around us.
And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that the fight for freedom, equality, and justice is an ongoing process, one that requires constant vigilance, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. The French Revolution, with all its triumphs and tragedies, serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale, reminding us that the pursuit of a more just and equitable world is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
It makes you wonder what future generations will look back on as our generation's revolution the moment we shifted the course of history. And maybe more importantly, it makes us ask ourselves, what side of history do we want to be on? That's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the French Revolution, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning from the echoes of the past.